Mr. Speaker, and good evening. Tonight I wish to speak to this Congress and to my fellow Americans about international policy and its relationship to the domestic economy. I will advocate a new direction America must take in the world so that we can meet the needs of our people here at home. For the past decade, we have relied on the force of our arms to make America more secure, while our economy has rotted from within. America has lost its focus. America has spent more time concentrating on reshaping the world than on reshaping our economy. We have created hundreds of thousands of jobs for military contractors all over the world, while we have just learned that we created 0 jobs here in the United States in the month of August as unemployment continues to stay above 9%.
Will suspend. House will be in order. Once again, let's ask members to take their conversations off the floor. House will be in order. Gentleman from Ohio.
As I said, Mr. Speaker, we have created hundreds of thousands of jobs for military contractors all over the world. Well, we just learned that we created 0 jobs here in America of August as unemployment continues to stay above 9%. Come home, America. We must begin to focus on things here at home and stop roaming the world looking for dragons to slay. We have a right and an obligation to defend our nation. But that includes working for peace abroad and seeking peaceful resolution of conflict, a capacity that, at our peril, we have not fully developed. I call it strength through peace. It involves the pursuit of what President Franklin Roosevelt called the science of human relations, actually engaging those with whom we disagree most to attempt to find a way to coexist peacefully. As Dr. Martin Luther King said at a commencement address at Oberlin College in 1965, and I quote, "We must find some alternative to war and bloodshed. I do not wish to minimize the complexity of the problems to be faced in achieving disarmament and peace, but we shall not have the courage, the insight to deal with some matters unless we're prepared to undergo a mental and spiritual change. It is not enough to say we must not wage war. We must love peace and sacrifice for it. We must fix our visions not merely on the negative expulsion of war, but on the positive affirmation of peace. We must see that peace represents a sweeter music, far superior to the discords of war." I believe the American people have the capacity, Mr. Speaker, to undergo a mental and spiritual change that Dr. King spoke about. People are about that work in their own private lives every day. The question is, does our government and those who lead it have that capacity? Are we willing to look, recognize the path we are on leads only to destruction and poverty? And are we willing to embark courageously on a new path? To those who say that this is naive, I ask, has the strategy of military intervention which took us and keeps us in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya made us any safer? The muscle-bound, with us or against us mindset, which passes for statecraft, has placed us on a march of folly that in the past decade has left America with thousands of dead young soldiers, over 1 million dead innocents in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the surrounding region, a new generation of terrorists, and trillions upon trillions of dollars in debt. As poverty and war are twins, so are peace and prosperity. Mindful of the disaster of spreading war and being an eyewitness as to how easily our country seems to be drawn into conflict, I traveled to Syria this year to personally urge their leader to stop the violence, respect human rights, and begin a transition towards a democratic state. I traveled to Lebanon afterwards to hear the concerns of leaders who also believe that the violence in Syria must stop, and who are concerned that if radical fundamentalism results in the overthrow of the government of Syria, the same fires will consume their own nation. which developed a fragile political and social consensus after years of civil war. I opposed the war in Libya, not only because it was unconstitutional, but it was and is unconscionable for America to precipitate or take sides in a civil war, spending perhaps billions in an ongoing war while we have so many pressing needs here at home. We went in because we were told a massacre could occur, yet civilian casualties in Libya mounted after the U.S. and NATO attacked. In order to please the West, Libya cooperated with the CIA, got rid of its WMD program in 2004, and privatized its economy, resulting in massive unemployment. It was moving through to reform even as the West moved to bomb it, and inexplicably, the West moved to take up the cause of elements of al-Qaeda spurring the rebels. We learned today from CNN that the rebels and fighters aligned with them are looting weapons warehouses across Libya, where as many as 20,000 surface-to-air missiles had previously been kept under lock and key. Western officials, perhaps the same geniuses who knowingly helped rebel elements with ties to al-Qaeda overthrow the Libya government, are now worried that the surface-to-air missiles and other weapons will get into the wrong hands. This lawless interventionism, spurred on by an unaccountable NATO which violates United Nations Security Council resolutions with impunity, this attempt to use force to bring others to subjection in the name of democracy actually has become a device for control over the wealth of other nations and the squandering of our own wealth and the spreading of poverty here at home. Did our government just wake up one day and discover that 14 million Americans are out of work and that we need a massive program to put them back to work? No, it's known that for some time. War has become our great distraction. It has given those who have little or no ability to construct a fair economy an opportunity to pretend leadership at the expense of those brave men and women who serve, and at the expense of the American economy and the expense of the American taxpayers. We can no longer afford participating in this war game of nations. I opposed the war in Afghanistan and have brought Congress to confront it several times because the U.S. has spent $1.5 trillion trying to democratize a tribal nation while failing to spend sufficient resources to protect our democracy here at home. The latest report is that we may be in Afghanistan through 2024 at the request of the Afghanistan government. This will cost us hundreds of billions, perhaps even trillions more. Doesn't it make more sense for America to come home at the request of and for the benefit of the American people? I led opposition in this Congress to the war in Iraq. 9 years ago, I warned this Congress that there was no reason to go to war against Iraq. I was asked at that time, whose side are you on, America's or the murderous dictator Saddam Hussein? Opposing that intervention was seen by some as coddling a murderous dictator. No matter that Hussein had opposed al-Qaeda, no matter that there was no proof that Iraq had anything to do with 9/11 or al-Qaeda's role in 9/11, no matter that Iraq did not have the intention or capability of attacking the United States, and that no one had been able to show that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. I wasn't for Saddam Hussein. I was for the truth and for peace. America pursued war anyway. America put the lives of its sons and daughters on the line. America will spend over $3